He says, I do not want her to be upset with me anymore. He says, I do not want her to be angry with me. He says, and I know that I should have been a better dad. That's what he tells me. Lisa, where are you from?
Greenville, Michigan.
Perfect. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you're all here. And first of all, there's a couple different souls that are stepping forward on the other side. But right away, there's this young male that's stepping forward. And he's here when I'm connecting. And right away, when I'm connecting, he's coming through and saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
That's my ex-husband and her dad.
Okay. I got to tell you, he's here. And this is a message for the whole family. And even though this was your ex, he says to me, Matt, he goes, I first of all want to let her know. He says that I loved and cared for her. He says, even though we were living separate lives. And he said to me that even before the two of you, okay, had gotten married or had children, he tells me the two of you were always friends here in this world. And he said to me, Matt, do you know that she's still my best friend? He tells me. He needs you to know that, because he tells me you guys had like a weird relationship with each other. He's like, you hated each other, you yelled at one another, but you secretly always loved one another, he's telling me. Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like your kids always like thought like that later on down the line when you were like 80 years old or so, that you could end up back together. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And it's funny because he tells me that, and first of all, he tells me that your kids get so pissed at you because like you still cry over him and get so upset over his past, and they're like, Mom, you hated him, you couldn't stand him, why are you crying? Do you understand that?
Yep.
So do you guys bust your balls all the time about that?
I'm not around as much as they do.
No, it's his way of saying this. He goes, Matt, please tell my kids that they're not going to ever understand the relationship that me and their mom had. We went back, he says, many years, he tells me. He says, and it was a tough battle for me and her. He says, we both had tough lives. He says, but at the end of the day, he tells me that the only people that you both could rely on was each other. And even though you may have fought like cats and dogs, even though you may have hated one another here in the physical, you still had that love in your heart. He wants to thank you for that. Because when he's coming through, he's not coming through as your husband or your ex. He's literally coming to you as a best friend. That's how I see the two of you. So it's almost like when you fight with your brother, you fight with your sister, you get mad, you get pissed, you're like, they're crazy, can't stand them, but you still have that love for them. It never goes away. But first of all, he's coming through because he wants to apologize to you and also to his family. So are you all his children?
Yeah, that's his blood and then step. Yes.
Okay.
He raised her since she was in diapers.
Because you're telling me they're blood in this one step, but to him on the other side, these were all his kids, he's telling me.
Absolutely.
This man tells me that he changed before he died. He tells me that he was not in his right mind before his passing.
He wasn't.
And this is what's so crazy is he keeps saying to me, Matt, he goes, I was upset with myself. I was upset with myself. I know that you will have questions over his passing. And I know that he passed in tragedy here in this world. But I also have something that's going to help you all heal. I have the answer, and I know how he had died. Because right away when I'm connecting with him, he says, Matt, tell my family I'm sorry. Tell my family I'm sorry. I didn't mean to die this way. I didn't mean to do this to myself, he tells me. And when I'm asking him, well, why? He said to me, I was not in my right mind before I had died. He said to me that here in this world, I'm going to be very honest. He tells me he had health issues that he was going on, that he was hiding from all of you. And those health issues were making him feel sick. They were making him not feel himself. He said to me, and because of that, his whole personality had changed. He was a completely different person when he had died. And he wants to apologize to every single one of you for that, because the hardest thing is that you feel like before he had passed, it's almost like he was distant in your lives. Do you understand that? Please know it's his way of letting you know one thing. He said, Matt, I drank because I was trying to get rid of the pain in my body. It wasn't because I was unhappy in life. I wasn't unhappy with my family. He says, I loved my kids. I would have never left my kids, he tells me. He tells me that what happened is that he was drinking because of the pain that he was feeling internally. He knows that you were going to keep his vehicle, by the way. What's the connection with keeping his vehicle?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he gave it to her, and actually my son, who wanted to be here, who isn't here, is actually driving it right now.
That's crazy. Because he said to me, Matt, please thank them, because I didn't have much to give. I didn't have much to give. He's like, but I'm so happy that they kept my car. And he also was thanking you for keeping the shirts of his here in the physical world. He says, and Matt, he goes, I see them wearing them, he goes, and I also see like shirts being switched, he tells me. He needs you to know. Oh, you have it on right now. Shut the hell up. So when you wore that today, did you say, listen, if this is real, he'll talk about the shirt?
Oh, I didn't.
I just threw it on this morning. It's hers.
That's crazy. So no, it's his way of acknowledging that he knows that you're wearing that. He said to me this, he goes, Matt, he goes, I have to prove this to them, because I would have been the biggest non-believer. I would have been the number one person that said there's no such thing as heaven, he said. He goes, and not to mention, he goes, I didn't believe in heaven. He's a hot shit. He goes, I didn't believe in heaven. He goes, because I was afraid that I wasn't going to make it there. That's what he tells me. He goes, but Matt, he goes, I'm there. He goes, and I'm able to watch over my whole family. I got to tell you, I believe the day that he died, he did not know what he was doing. I'm going to tell you that right now, because he shows me that he was not in control of his body. He was not in control of his mind. He says, and Matt, that's the one thing that I regret, because you always were telling him, your whole family was on him about the drinking. You were always on him about telling him that something was going to happen. He says, Matt, he says, even though I died, he wants you all to continue being a family with one another. He wants you to still celebrate holidays, celebrate events. He says, and as hard as this is, he says, I need you to know that I am at peace on the other side. What he's so sorry about was the way that you found out about his passing, and the way that he did not get to tell you all how much he truly loved you and cared about you. But he says, Matt, I'm making up for lost time now. I want them to know that in heaven, I am fine. I am okay. He goes, but there's one thing that I'm not doing. What do you mean? He just said to me, I'm not cutting my hair. I'm not cutting my hair. What the hell was with not cutting his hair?
Well, it's funny because he always had to be that person that would make us go, what are you doing? So he would either shave it bald, or he would have mohawks, or he'd get weird bushy, and he'd do it on purpose as a joke, because we were like, what in the world?
He's saying to me when I'm connecting, goes, let them know I'm not going to cut my hair. I'm not going to cut my hair. That's crazy. So no, I feel like it's his way of acknowledging that, to let you know, listen, he has not changed. What your loved ones want you to know is that they have not changed their personality on the other side. The same crazy things that they did here in this world, they are still crazy on the other side. All right. So please know that that was his way of always doing that. It's his way of bringing that through in spirit. And I also want to come over to you as his biological daughter, because first of all, I got to tell you, I know that you're having such a hard time with this. This was the biggest loss that you had to go through within your life. And this is so hard for you because your dad tells me that you're super sensitive. He tells me that you already deal with anxiety. And this is so hard because, you know, your dad was always like your sounding board here in this world. And when your dad passed, he tells me, Matt, he says, she's taking this so hard because she's so sensitive. And also, your dad tells me that you were not looking forward to hearing from him right now. Because I know that you're so angry with him, and your father knows that because he's whispering that to me. He says, and Matt, listen, not that you all don't love him, not that you all don't care about him, but he said to me that he needed to come through to you because he says, Matt, he says, I do not want her to be upset with me anymore. He says, I do not want her to be angry with me. He says, and I know that I should have been a better dad. That's what he tells me. And I know that I should have supported you more. He says, because in your life, your dad is telling me that he missed out on many things. And your dad tells me that you just used to go on your life and pretend like, I don't care. I don't mind that my dad's missing this. I don't mind that my dad doesn't tell me I love me. I don't mind. I just do my own thing. I'm independent. But really that hurts you to your core. Because you were always waiting for that day when your dad came around. You were always waiting for that day when your dad would finally give you more of his attention, appreciate you more, appreciate your relationship more. And unfortunately, you never got that. So listen, unfortunately, I'm not a miracle worker. I wish I could. I wish I could reach right in you and take the pain that you're feeling away. But your dad's doing that right now in a different way. Because your father tells me this. He says, Matt, please tell my daughter that I know how she feels. So even though this conversation you feel was left unsaid, even though you feel like my dad's never going to know, he's never going to know how I felt. We didn't get to resolve this. I'm mad at him. I'm angry with him because he missed out on this, 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 and this. He doesn't realize that he hurt me. He doesn't realize I'm upset. Your dad says, I do. And your dad says that the one thing that he wants to ask you for is for your forgiveness. He says, Matt, please tell my daughter, I am so, so sorry for hurting her. I am so, so sorry for not being able to be a part of her life the way I should have. But I actually just saw your father's soul lean down and kiss you.
Oh.
And he says, Matt, please let her know that no matter what happens, I will always, always be watching over her in spirit. And I know in your head, you're saying that's not good enough. Because your father tells me. Because you feel like you need your dad here. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Your father just said to me, Matt, please tell her I will be sending her signs and I will be sending her songs. That's my conversation to her. So when you get those little songs and you get those signs and and your mind goes to tell you that's just a coincidence, it's not. It's your dad's way of showing you that he's there. It's your dad's way of showing you that he is safe and at peace on the other side. And his soul is always and forever with you. I really hope that this helped you today.